Hey guys, how you doing? I wanted to just show off one other piece quickly at the moment. Something that you guys have all seen before, but I like this piece. It's a little more special in my eyes. Um, Let me just pull it out of the box. It is the Microtech Ultratech. This one in particular. Beautiful blue aluminum with the frag texture or pattern, or if it's not frag, it's some type of design that feels like frag. The grip is really excellent. I mean, I think these knives are fairly smooth all around without this type of texture, and I really liked this. This is an older model from 2016, and you can see right there, say Ultratech, straight edge. You can tell it's L-Max. It's actually quite thin behind the edge too, and it doesn't have like that gold tone. It is just like a standard, I would say, kind of like a bead blast, I would say. And then on the flats, more of like a satin a little bit, right where the fuller is, and then toward the base of the handle. I've carried this a little bit. See the X button. I haven't carried it a lot. I haven't abused it or anything like that. But this definitely has a stronger spring too, which I prefer. Um, this pocket clip. Well, hold on. Let's do this instead, just to show you. Microtech Claw serial number 67106. This was made birth date of. Oh, is that? Hold on, I'm trying to get. Why can't I get that? I think it's just the way that. Is that 8/16? Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to cover it to see if that would make it easier to look at. 2016. Okay. So August of 2016. That's when I was made. It's the Microtech logo, pocket clip, pretty standard stuff. If you can tell, the pocket clip is a little canted. It's a little off that way. I'm not really sure why that is. I haven't carried this extensively, only a little bit. Maybe it was always like that. And I noticed too that the pocket clip was wearing a mark, so it's, anyway, it is what it is. Not a big deal. There's the glass breaker. I personally would not try and break glass with one of these unless I had gloves on or it was in a pinch, just because you could really cut yourself. A lot of people don't talk about that. They fantasize about breaking windows and doing all types of, tactical, manly things. And in reality, you just need a better tool for the job. Get like an actual glass breaker as a separate tool. One that's not going to cut your hand when you break the glass. Like I said, in a pinch you could, but I wouldn't use it without gloves. You'd definitely cut yourself, hands down. There's no question about it. But, oh, real quick, something I wanted to show you too. This was something I forgot to show you in the last video, something that I also had with my GTK small spear tack. I got this when I purchased the knife. This is their one of their cloths, not really a hank, but like a cloth. It's like a guide to it, like a treasure map, or I don't know. I like the design. They had other designs, and they allowed me to pick one when I purchased it. I thought it was pretty neat out of all the others. So, like the color, design, yeah. So, I told you I was going to forget something, right, guys? When I said I didn't want to ramble on, but anyway, back to the Microtech. I think this blue is just absolutely gorgeous. The color, the pattern. It's not a frag pattern like the monkey edge frag pattern, where it's perfect squares. It's more like these diamond shapes, but it's pretty neat. And if you look closely, it's almost like the triangles. Look at the edges, like each of the lines. They look like they're a little concave, like it almost is supposed to match the hardware, which I think is quite neat. I'd never even noticed that really until now. And it's just very well designed. Excuse me, very well designed. Um, but, you know, nothing really to say because the blade stock thickness, quite robust. It'll do what you need it to. I have heard and seen videos, people say you can use these for hard use. Well, that depends. I mean, maybe. I'm not certain. I've never tried. I tend to think, I know they've been around since '94 and they've improved upon and been pretty reliable overall. But I know that any knife with more parts, I believe that, I could be wrong, but I believe that could provide for more failures. You know, more moving parts, more things that could break, little things that could break that affect other things or bigger things. And, you know, it's just my opinion, belief. But I do know, and a lot of people have said too, that a lot of dirt and grime can really gunk up this area very easily, especially if you work on like a farm or something of that nature. And I don't know. I need my knife to work. I don't need it to misfire. And I mean, it's a great tool. You know, like I said, I've carried it a few times, used it a couple times. It's quite sharp. It's quite thin behind the edge. You wouldn't expect it. The gripe that I have is the fact that, I mean, you can see the bevel is much thinner down there, and it's pretty consistent. You get toward to the tip. That's not, and then it widens out. That's not actually my gripe. My gripe is, and this doesn't go for just Microtech. This goes for a lot of companies, a lot of, I should say, American companies. Why don't you heat treat your knives better? Why is your LMAX, going to be around a 59 HRC? That can reach higher numbers. You could probably get that up to a 62, 63. Why not get the best performance? Well, as I was listening to another YouTuber that I watched the other day, I think he made a valid point. It's all boils down to one thing: cost, right? Saving money. And they probably lower the hardness because it's cheaper for them to do so. Uh, you know, is it cheaper to make thinner grinds? I don't know. I mean, Microtech generally has made thinner grinds than, say, your typical Benchmades and Hogues and even your Spydercos. But the thing that Spyderco has going for them is their heat treatment is on point. I mean, is it as good as custom makers? Well, it depends. Some custom makers do have lower heat treatments, but generally speaking, I shouldn't say generally. Let me back up. The heat treatment on the Spyderco American-made knives, and just their knives, I think, in general, especially Taiwan, are very, very, very good. They outshine, outperform, head and shoulders, all the other American knife companies. All the other American knife companies have soft heat treatments, have low HRC. The steel is soft, and that's a fact. You know, they need to get their act together. Now, I will give it to some companies I've heard of recently. I know for a fact that Hogue has increased their heat treatment procedures. The HRC they've increased, say, like the Magna Cut, I believe the 20 CV, they have definitely hardened it to a higher number, which I think is excellent. Like, good for you, Hogue. Keep it up. I think the next order of business would be, as I've talked about before and others have, bring back, or not bring back, they never had it in the first place, bring to the market knives that are hardened properly and that have thin edges. That's it. That's what us knife guys want. You notice a difference cutting with a knife that is 30 thousandths behind the edge and then one that is 10 thousandths behind the edge, or even one that's 15 thousandths behind the edge. It makes a big difference. It really, really does. Even, a typical Spyderco, which is 20 thousandths behind the edge on average, give or take a point or two, 22 thousandths. But compared to that 30, compared to 40, some of these really thick behind the edge knives, they just don't cut, man. You're better off using a chisel. I have heard the other company I was thinking of is Lion Steel that has hardened some of their blades to be better recently. They've always been known for having soft steel and low heat treatments, especially on their M390, like 58, 59. And it's like, dude, M390, you can push to 64. And it really doesn't become optimal, and it doesn't really shine until it's around 62 HRC. If you didn't know that, look it up. But, yeah. Well, 11 minutes in here ranting, and then I was talking about a Microtech knife, but anyway, I think that was just about everything. But really like this design. I like this particular variant of the knife. I think it looks really good. I do know that they make some of these still nowadays in some of these gripped variants. But when this first came out in 2016, that was like a rarity. It was something that they made, and I don't want to call it like a flash batch, but it was in very small quantity. And then they stopped making them for years. And then they just recently started making ones with different frag patterns and different patterns and grippy patterns in the aluminum. And I think it's pretty cool. It works. It'll definitely not slip out of your hand, especially if you were using it for hard use. And maybe it would hold up for hard use, but I think it depends on the task. Like I said, older model, but the firing button and everything, it's definitely a stronger spring, and I like that. But it's not, it's strong, but it's not, like they have models back in, I think, like maybe 2010 and others that were even really hard to deploy. Stronger springs than this, which you basically needed two hands, and they were very, very difficult. The new ones that they have are much lighter springs. They're easier to manipulate, but they're just, kind of wimpy. I like the stronger spring. I think it shows a more robust nature to it. But, yeah. I feel like there was another point, though. What was I talking about? The HRC and this, that, and the other. Yeah, just, it's unfortunate. As much as I do like Microtech and Benchmade and other, American companies, and I don't disregard them, but really, guys, you need to start making knives that have thin edges behind the edge. Get something down to 5 thousandths behind the edge, because when you do proper edge geometry and then you have a proper heat treatment, and that blade's going to perform, and it's going to perform well. And I don't know. I think I'm speaking for the masses, but then again, there's plenty of people who are very happy to just go to Walmart and buy your cheap garbage China knife. They're happy to go to Lowe's and get some cheap knockoff knife of a Todd Begg or something ridiculous like that, which is really pathetic. But anyway, I think I'm just ranting at this point. Is there anything else I left out? I don't think so. The action, as you can see, is very good. Very, very good. I think the blue is just gorgeous, if I didn't say that. It's just beautiful. It's held up. Like I said, the pocket clip's a little off, but retains its place, Can you feel it? Yeah, you can feel it. It's not horrendous though if you're gripping, but you definitely feel, I think, the grip more of the aluminum. How cool would it be though, guys? Can you imagine if they made this Ultratech in a titanium body rather than aluminum? I know it would cost more. It'd probably cost two and a half, maybe even three times as much. But man, I'd buy one. Oof. I don't know if there's any out there. There might be a custom maker out there, like Patrick Famine, I think, is a French maker who makes custom OTFs. There's another gentleman by the name of something Harkins, I think. He has had a collaboration with ProTech. And then you also have, darn it, who's that other person? I don't really consider G&G Hawk custom. They're still a machine, high-end machine company. Very good, but not custom. Not, a one-by-one piece at a time. Yeah. I mean, you hear a little rattle there? Hold on. A little bit in the button. Yeah. That's pretty standard. There was a YouTuber that brought that up. Can you see that? It'd be nice if it was more secure, but it's not the end of the world. I do love the neutral design, though, just with the handle. Straight, it's just perfect. There's no hot spots, outside of the clip, but outside of that, there's no hot spots, which a lot of makers would you make knives with less hot spots as well. But anyway, I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching. Man, I just don't want to end it because I feel like there was something else I wanted to say. Yeah. Oh, that I think is one thing I wanted to say. I'm glad I remembered it. So the steel that Microtech uses nowadays, the M390 MK, which they say is like their variant of M390 steel that they have a collaboration with, or they made a partnership, whatever. They asked Bowler to make for them, and I gotta say, I'm sorry, but Anthony Morfione does not know what he's talking about when he gets up there and says, "Oh, the MK just gives it that little bit of, extra sweetness," or whatever he said when the steel first came out in his knives, that it gives it that little extra oomph that you need. There's been studies to show that it's nothing more than just M390, but a low HRC, a low heat treat, another soft steel. Now, is this LMAX soft? Oh, I'm sure it is. I haven't had it tested. But given their... Man, my brain is fried. Given the reputation that they've had and the knives that they've produced, they've had steels. Most of their, I think, just about every steel that they've used has had a lower heat treat because it's cost savings, as I said earlier. But yeah, I won't buy the knives with the M390 MK steel because I think that it's just a marketing ploy, and he's duped a lot of people into thinking that it's better, when all you need, in fact, is someone to, like Spyderco, who makes M390 at 62 HR and hardens it to 62 HRC. Like, it's going to cut for a much longer time than M390 at 59, which they do. It's even been shown that even M154CM, I think, at like, what was it, 61, 62, maybe HRC, will outcut and outperform M390 at 59. It's just a fact. So, yeah, I'm not into that whole ploy. And yeah. Um, Plus, he's quite arrogant. I've met him in person. He's very full of himself. But yeah, I've said before, I buy the maker as much as I buy the knife. I mean, this was way before I really started scrutinizing myself about who I buy from. I just bought this, I don't want to say on a whim, but it was just something I thought was cool. And it still is. Will I get rid of it? Yeah, well, no. Who knows? But anyway, I think that's everything. I think I covered everything. Sorry for the rambling, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.